Party people, every Saturday about this time, high noon, I bring my expert in, NBA talk. Good thing about it, we get ready to have a season, so at some point these conversations are going to be that much more exciting. So y'all get ready to chime in, get some of this good NBA talk. LeBron James, the Lakers, my Atlanta Hawks, their season is done. We didn't get an invitation. Hey, my yoga instructor is in the building. What's going on? Tiffany Campbell. Oh, my dude in the building. Let's get going. I need to come get stretched out, Tiffany. I'll give you a call. We get this thing going. Yeah, just running.
Woo. Hey,
There go
what's
my
up,
dog.
brother?
What's up, baby boy?
How you doing, man?
Hey, man. Look here, I did a better job this week of organizing your notes, so I'll be able to go on. I'll be able to go on script because I had the paper last. I said, man, let me organize this thing a little bit because it's bad when you can't read your own handwriting.
I hear you. I'm the same way, man. It's funny too because when you scout, like when I'm scouting, man, and you're doing you're really writing a shorthand.
Right.
And then I go back and I look at my notes and I organize them, and people look all the time and they're like, man, like, what is that?
What am I trying to say?
Right. Right, exactly. And my wife, her handwriting is so meticulous and beautiful and all that stuff, man. And I'm like, she looks at it, she's like, what did you just write? So
chicken scratch.
Exactly. Chicken
scratch. Man, we got good news this week. The NBA finally set a date. First and foremost, man, I think Adam Silver has done an incredible job with everything that had, this COVID thing just kind of really, I mean, we don't know.
Right.
And for him to, and the thing I loved about what he did was pretty much he was like, okay, I'm not going to make any concrete dates, but we're going to work behind the scenes. And when we do have an effective plan to move forward, then we'll release it. So, man, he did a wonderful job in that, man. Your thoughts on how he handled this COVID-19 situation?
No, I echo your sentiments, brother. And I think he did a great job with it. I think it's also too sort of indicative of the relationship between the Players Association and the league, and how that's really been at the forefront of, especially since he became commissioner. That's been something that he's really focused on, making sure that, again, oftentimes we say this a lot, even though we're in sports, we are actually in the relationship business. It's just wrapped in sports, right? So with that being said, I think all of us, as we're going forward with that, have to realize that. And we've talked about this before, where the teams and the coaches that do the best job at approaching this as a relationship business have been the ones that have enjoyed some extended success and sustained success. So I think Adam Silver is just following a page out of that playbook, and he did a really good job. So, yeah, I agree.
Before we get started, are those the Grinch Kobe's behind you?
They are. Yep.
Have you seen what those resell for these days?
I haven't. Because those are one of the pairs that I won't give up.
Yeah, because you sound like me. A guy offered me, I'll send you after the show. I'll send you what they're reselling for.
Send it to me.
You will be, dude. Let's stay on track.
Because that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, right? God, Sneaker Reporter, they're coming back. Okay.
I see you in the building, so I definitely need to. We'll talk about all that later. So, first topic they have for you, Kevin Durant. He kills the rumors. He's like, listen, my season is over. Even though Brooklyn, they're invited down to the bubble, he's saying he's done. Are you surprised by this?
I'm not. I think that anytime, you're talking to a cat, Mace, that has torn his Achilles as well, right? And first off, we talked about it last week. When you have other sorts of injuries, it sort of indicates that something major is about to happen.
Right.
So he already had a calf injury, and then he went and played, right? And so So I'm not surprised by that because he has to slow walk this. He has to approach this the right way and
Right.
make sure that he doesn't rush back to put his long-term health and really the franchise's health in danger and place that in peril because you're trying to come back and play a couple games.
Right.
So I think it's the right thing to do. In fact, I know it's the right thing to do. And he can really, essentially, when you look at it, he will have had this period that we've been out to really continue to rest and then come back. So, he will have had over a calendar year before he plays his first game and coming back. And I think it bodes well for him. Mm-hmm. And of course, if it bodes well for him, it bodes well for the Nets and the league. And the league, because let's face it, the league needs a New York team to be relevant. Right? They need a New York team to be relevant.
Number one market.
Yeah. Right. No question. So it's really, and you need them to be relevant in a way because they're successful, not because, all of the ancillary things or all the off the court things that sort of dominate the headlines. They need a team. The league needs a team to be successful because from a revenue standpoint, to be able to leverage that, a New York team being successful, it's and at the same time, while the Lakers are relevant too, and the Celtics, right? Need I say more?
Right. And, and it's crazy because when the rumors were kind of like circulating, I'm like, well, Kyrie just had surgery as well. So, Kyrie's out. So why would Durant try to come back without Kyrie? Yeah, sit it out, buy this extra time, like you just say, and man, let's get ready for the next half for the 2021-2022 season.
No question.
With a full clip.
No question. That's what you need to do, especially given the fact when you look at the timeline, after the season it's like a month later, training camp starts. Right? So with that being said, is let the season end, as you said, take all that time you need and go in there with your full arsenal. Let's get it done.
It's crazy, dude. So we talked about it in the opening. 22 teams will resume the season around July 31st. What is the biggest obstacle each team, with all the teams, what's their biggest obstacle in getting back?
I think really getting into game shape and the skills part with these guys, we've been doing this all our lives. And I said this last week, like even since I tore my Achilles, I don't really hoop. And when I work kids out, I don't do really any real demonstration. I talk them through it and let them do it themselves because, because it's about them. It's not about me. Right. So I'm not coming in there doing the drills. What Suge say? If you don't want your executive producer dancing in the video, right? So, so there we go, right? So that's my approach. So with that being said, if I decided to start hooping again, it would take me about a week to get my skills back and get my feel back. It's the conditioning, the stopping and going, the moving laterally, and this on your 30-day journey, right? As much as that running is part of the cardio, that's not basketball shape because you're stopping and going, explosive bursts. Like running extended is different, right? So them getting on the Peloton and doing all that stuff, that's great. That's not game shape. So I would say the biggest obstacle is making sure that these guys are getting in game shape, but also doing it in a way, Mace, where they are yes, we have a timeline before, so we have to start the season. But at the same time, they also have to make sure that they slow walk this thing so guys aren't rushing back. Right. And
now, explain this real quick, Tonio, because I like that point you were making because, like say, we know guys are, like I said, Peloton, they're running. They're getting workout, but competitive conditioning is totally different from what you're doing by yourself.
Facts. It's totally different. And again, with the other thing that is virtually impossible to simulate as well is game intensity. All the things that come in when you start really locking in and your intensity starts to ramp up if you're not careful, you got to make sure that that intensity doesn't get you to the point where you get so tight and you get so nervous that you can't even represent yourself in the best light. So it's hard to replicate that when you're working out. It's virtually impossible to replicate that because you can't really get that level of intensity and what it does to you when you're competing. So that, you know, it's so you can do your bike, you can do your Peloton, you should be doing that. You should be running, but the only way that you can really get that conditioning that you need is by playing. That's the only way you can do it.
And so talk to me about, like, you know, let's just talk LeBron and AD.
Yep.
AD has a history of injury.
Yep.
LeBron is basically, he's fighting Father Time.
Right.
No, I think last year was the first time that, like, I can remember when they were like he was gonna miss games. I was like, I mean, we've never heard that.
Right. And look at the ratings from the playoffs without LeBron, and what, there we go. Right. Right.
In the crapper. So with the older team, so kind of help me out. An older team versus like a young gun, the young guns with those fresh legs. Talk about the approach for both of those type of teams.
Well, you know, to your point, let's take an older team. Let's take a team like the Lakers, or a team where, you know, some of their guys are, as you said, with LeBron, fighting Father Time, and then AD may have some nagging injuries that seem to always bother him throughout the season. This time it was good for them because it allowed them to do both. They probably got some rest, right? And let all those nagging ailments sort of heal up, because right before we got to this point, remember, LeBron was sitting out a couple of games with some groin issues, which he had last year, right? Which caused him to miss that extended amount of time last year. So, you know, so doing that really helps them to really sort of heal those ailments. The same with the Clippers. That's why this is going to be so compelling, because Paul George, Kawhi, all those people that were load managing, right? They got that opportunity to really load manage.
Right.
And so, right. So they were really load managing while they were out. Yeah. And so now, so you got a chance to really heal up those injuries. And now you get to come back and attack the process again and really start ramping up and getting ready from a skills perspective. And so for a guy like LeBron, I'm anticipating to see for this next couple months, I'm anticipating to see what does LeBron say? I go, what mode does he go in, Mace?
He go 0 dog 30 mode.
There we go. I'm expecting to see that.
That's what he do. He gonna cut the social media off.
I'm expecting to see that. You know, that type of play. You know, because he's been rested, and so that's what I'm expecting to see out of him. And I can't wait to see it. Right. Because the Clippers are going to be well rested. Milwaukee's going to be well rested. Yeah. So these teams that are vying for supremacy in the league will be well rested. Yeah. And then for those young teams, you know, it's really important to get those reps. And, you know, say if you're a team that's like, say Phoenix, for example, where I used to scout, you know, they are trying to compete for that last playoff spot. Right. Well, if you look at Devin Booker, this is probably the first time in his career in the NBA where he's playing some really meaningful games. Right. So he's playing. So essentially, he's getting it. He's getting it's like a simulated playoff race is what it is. Right. So he's getting the chance to play some real meaningful games with those 22 teams, and to get a glimpse of what playoff intensity is like. Right. And then for those teams that aren't playing, you know, we starting to see now for those 8 teams that are left out that they're appealing to the NBA where they can essentially do their own stuff, you know, and have they can have joint practices, joint scrimmages. They can have some time before everybody else reports in training camp because because all of those teams that didn't make it are young teams. Like your Hawks, for example, right? Yeah. Right. And they need reps.
No invite to the bubble.
Yeah, right. And they need reps, right? And I mean, you can make a case that Trae Young is probably the most high-profile guy that's not in the bubble.
Facts.
Right? Facts. And so they need reps. Minnesota needs reps with D'Angelo Russell and
Mm-hmm.
Karl Anthony Towns, right? They
And I
need
like D.
reps.
I
Yeah,
like D.
yeah,
Ooh, I like D.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too.
Dang.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, so they need reps, and so I think, and that's a long time for them to go 8 or 9, 10 months without any real team OTAs or organized team activities or something of that nature. That's a long time, especially
Right.
for a young team. So because it's so different, because you got to look at it like this, Mace. In college, it's, I think I said this before when I do my intel on guys, I stopped asking, are players hard workers? Because when they're in college, because we virtually turned college basketball into a year-round deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you don't really have to ask if the guy is a hard worker or not, because there's so many planned team activities, because we turned it into a year-round deal that
Right.
they're gonna do it anyway.
Right.
Right.
They almost don't have no choice.
They don't have no choice. Right. So with that being said, it's these young players, that's the environment that they're coming from. That's the environment that they're used to.
That's what
And
they
then,
know. That's what
right.
they know.
And
Right.
then they get to the league and it's different.
Yeah.
And so it's for a young player that's really trying to find his way, trying to figure out how to be a professional. It's probably not good that they spend that amount of time away from each other. Mm-hmm. So they need something too. And lastly, I know we talked about this last week too, brother. They have to do something for those teams, whether it's we know it or not. It's almost like, put it in the fight game terms, because I love the fight game. If Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury want to get it on to unify the heavyweight division,
right,
then they have to give Deontay Wilder, they got to get a bronze bomber something to step aside.
They got to pay him the whole tight.
They got to break him off.
Yep.
Right?
Got to pay him
and
the whole
so
tight.
With these teams that are out of it, you got to break them off. So yeah, so those are my sentiments, those are my thoughts. I can't wait to see it.
So let me ask you about Lonzo Ball, because before the pandemic hit, he was on a nice little streak where he was about 21-8-8. What do you think, he was just finding his groove, or was that just okay? I mean, he got a hot streak going right now. Is that the Lonzo Ball that we're probably going to continue to see as his career continues to move forward?
I do. I think he was finding his groove, because the biggest thing about Lonzo Ball, I know everybody focuses on the shooting. The biggest thing about him, Mace, is he was actually, for the most part, he was actually healthy. And a lot of that probably stemmed from the fact that he had to get an NBA shape. There we go again, right? Had to get an NBA shape. Had to get strong enough to withstand that grind, and then also be able to, we talked about this before, and I've been saying this for a while, not in terms of star power, but in terms of depth. The NBA, the point guard position in the NBA is as deep as it's ever been in the history of the league.
It's
right.
You close your eyes and pick a guy.
You're going to have it to do every night, right? Every night.
Pick a guy.
Yeah, and those are the all-star level guys. Again, right. the Dennis Schroeders of the world, right? Like it's guys that'll give it to you that aren't all-stars. Right.
So Schroeder will give you 30.
He's gonna give it to you, right? He's gonna give it to you. So if you're an all-star caliber guy and you playing Colin Sexton, young bull gonna give it to you.
Well, the young bull,
right?
The young bull.
So you're gonna have it to do every night. So from a conditioning standpoint, you got to be ready for that. From a mentality standpoint, you got to be ready for that. And I think he was starting to find his groove. And so I think that's who he is, because if you look at him when he came in, he's better defensively than what people gave him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's a great rebounder.
Yeah.
Right? He's a great rebounder for a point guard. And he's always been that.
I didn't realize he was that tall.
He's a big dude.
When they were here, and we kind of do our pregame stuff, and he walked by, he was stretching, and I was just sitting there like, he is a lot longer than I thought.
No question.
You know,
No
so
question.
yeah, it's crazy.
No, he's a big dude, right? And so he's always been a good rebounder from the point guard spot. Always been a great passer. Always been that. And
That's
so,
strength.
right. So
Yeah.
all this, so that stuff is constant, and all the other stuff has continued to come. He's changed his shot, and you know we got to give him a shout out for that because again, I think people give too much credit and give too much credence to when people say that being a better shooter is the easiest thing that you can improve upon in the league. And then we look 5 years later and we're still saying the same thing about certain guys, right? So when you're trying to improve from a shooting perspective, the other thing I think that gets undervalued is the mentality that it takes. Melo is doing this all the time, right?
Yeah.
The mentality that it takes to, okay, I just made it to be part of that 470 club and I was doing it my way. Right. Now somebody came to me and said, I need to do it a different way. Do you have the mentality to accept that? What Jay-Z say? This is food for thought. You do the dishes. Do you have that mentality? Right. And even though so it's that fine line. I got to be very confident in myself, but I also got to be willing to take that food for thought, eat that plate and do the dishes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a special mentality.
You know, we talked about this last week, so I'm gonna just want you to hit this one. Do you guys think Melo Ball will be better than Lonzo out the gate? And you kind of touched on it last week, so kind of give the audience kind of what you talked about last week when we talked about Melo.
Yeah, I think Melo is, of course, a better offensive player at this point than Lonzo, but he's more focused on scoring.
Right.
So I think again, we talked about this last week. I think, especially when you are, and I can say this as a point guard, when you get to the league, your situation is almost just as important as your actual talent. Because when you are a point, you are the guys around you and how they complement your game is really dictates how effective you can be as a point guard. So for Melo, I think Melo is going to have to get to a situation where a team really embraces who he is,
right,
and lets him be who he is, right? And if he gets to that point offensively, he will probably have a bigger impact than Lonzo initially.
Right.
But in terms of all those things from a facilitating standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, from a rebounding standpoint, Lonzo does that stuff because that's inherently who he is, right? So, so I think that they're both kind of have their strengths, and it will be up to the team to really leverage those strengths to allow Melo to be who he is. Right. So if he gets to a team and someone says, you know, hey, Melo, we want you, you're going to come here, we want you to do X, Y, and Z, and that's not in his DNA, he might struggle a little bit, right? So you're going to have to, again, I reference this, because another guy in your city, because your city gets it done, when Kenny came down there, right? When Kenny Anderson came down there, Bobby Crimmins was like, here you go, right? Right? And people need to keep in mind with that, when they did that, they were already a really good team.
Right.
Brian Oliver, 3D, Dennis Scott, they were already a good team.
Yeah.
And they gave that cat the ball. Right?
Yep.
And they were like,
you go run the squad.
That's exactly right. So when you have a talent like that, you know, you have to make sure that, yes, you're providing that structure where they can grow, where you're having some level of accountability. Because remember, accountability is the best ability. That's where you get your dependability.
All
right?
Day long.
So you got to have some of that, but you also got to let them go. Right? And so it's the same thing with Lonzo from a creativity standpoint. When he's initiating the offense and passing the ball, you got to let dude do his thing, right? You know, and you got to let him do his thing.
I love it, man. So next topic for you. This one was funny. When I got this one in, I actually heard a national show. They were having this conversation. So the debate, you know, we talked about best shooters last week.
Yep.
So the debate turned this week. So the debate between Ray Allen and Steph Curry was all over national radio. Your thoughts on their different styles of play And who would you say is the best shooter between Ray Allen and Steph Curry?
You know, it pains me to say this, but I always like guys because I'm Steph Curry size.
Right.
But I always like guys with a little more size that can get it because they can get a shot off. Because, you know, if you can put it's Ray Allen, if you put a 6'7" guy on him because he's 6'5", he can still do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But me as a point guard, you know, and as great as Steph is, and I'm certainly not being a Steph detractor because Steph is incredible. But sometimes teams put size on them and they beat them up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, and again, you got to have the personnel to do that. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has the personnel to do that, right. But it's possible to do that.
Right.
And with Ray, it's a little more difficult. And especially the other thing that people forget about Ray is Ray will bang that thing on you. Right. And people forget that about Ray Allen. As great as a shooter as Ray Allen is, people forget, right, that Ray Allen will punch that thing on you.
Early Ray, please go look at UConn, Seattle, Milwaukee Ray. Please go
look at him. And the other thing that comes with that as well, Mace, is mid-range, right? I can get a shot off anytime I want, right? So for me, for a guy that has you know, the all-time leader in three-point shooting, three-point field goals converted, people forget how much this dude will bang on you, or he can get you in the mid-range, and they forget how athletic he was. Right. So, you know, if you're taking Steph Curry in his prime compared to Ray in Boston, then of course I'm taking Steph Curry. Right. But looking over the entire life and body of Ray's career, and when Ray was in his prime, come on, man. Yeah. And I love Steph. So, you know, because again, like you always say, brother, that's why I appreciate this. A multitude of reasons why I appreciate sharing this platform with you. But one of the things is I'm not a hot take guy, right? So as I say that, I don't want people to even misconstrue it as me saying, oh man, you know, not respecting the great Steph. Of course I do.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Steph is incredible.
Definitely not a disrespect thing at all.
Yeah,
definitely not disrespect. And it's funny because I just saw the question up there: who would you take to take the big shot, Steph or Ray? So for me, and again, just based on performance, we've seen Ray take that shot. Steph hadn't hit that shot in a big moment yet. Not saying that he won't eventually, but you think about the Boston shot with Ray. Everybody know about the Miami shot.
Exactly.
With Ray. When I look at Steph, I say he just not in that moment yet. Yeah, he's led his team to a championship, but he wasn't the guy like I think, you know, Iguodala got an MVP. Mm-hmm. KD got the other two. Right. You know, and for me, you know, and I'm gonna do something with Jody Meeks this week. Jody talked about Jody talked about how they in the defensive strategy, like, so once Clay went down, once KD went down, they were like, listen, dude, we're gonna let Steph shoot. Because he's gonna tire himself out eventually. Now he has to carry the offense. Right. And even when he had those pieces in place, Steph really still didn't hit in the crucial situation. He didn't hit that shot. Right. That just sent, you know, so they had Golden State, you know, Right. So for me, I'm taking Ray in that pressure situation. That's me.
Right, no question. You said it more eloquently than I could have, and you know, so to your point about Steph again, and I think Jody is speaking to that exactly what I'm saying, where you can put that size, right, and you can do things,
and that's exactly the word he used, Tonio. That's the word he used. He said it's easier to body Steph when you're bigger than Steph.
Exactly. And you got to have the personnel to do that. So not everybody can do that. Right. Mm-hmm. But when you play against when you're playing against really good teams and championship caliber teams, they have someone that can do that. Yeah. And they have someone that not only they can do that, but that's their specialty. we don't necessarily need that person to get points because we
Right.
get those so he can literally just lock in and this is what I'm doing. Not every team can do that, but
Right.
championship caliber teams can do it.
Yeah.
And so again, as great as Steph is, and
Mhm.
he is incredible,
Right.
those are the things. And I can say that again as a point guard because that's what when I played against really good teams, that's what people did to me.
Right.
You know, they take somebody 6'5", 6'6",
And try to
6'7".
smother you.
Yes, that's exactly what they did to me, right? And you sitting throughout the game thinking, man, I wish I was 6'4", right? Like, just mad, right? Just mad, just heated, right? So, you know, I lived that. And so in that situation, again, when you put one of those wing guys on that can guard multiple spots and you put him on Ray, especially when Ray was in his prime, he could do something on that 6'7" dude, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I think, and it speaks to the point of what we always talk about in terms of how difficult it is to win a title when your point guard is the lead dog, because you face people in the league that are, forget 6'5", that are 6'8" and above that can do the same things you can do, right? And it's just, it's so hard to win the title in the league with your point guard being the lead guy. It's so hard, you know, which is why, again, say it real quick, but with Steph, and this is a shout out to him, that he's versatile enough to, okay, KD brings the ball up. Draymond brings the ball up. I can still get off the ball, move without the ball, and still get a shot off. And a lot of point guards can't do that because they're used to operating with the rock in their hands all the time. Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's funny, Kobe. If you don't get, if you don't have ESPN Plus and the special that Kobe used to do, I can't think of the name. Detail. Listen, it's amazing. Listen, I'm always in awe when I watch him do this show because, like, dude, the way he saw the game, and every time he would break down like Golden State, it always freaked me out because it was always you know, you sitting there like, guys bringing up the ball. Kobe is already saying, okay, on this play, listen, this is how they should defend it. And he all the time, listen, never go up under a screen on Steph because he's going to burn you.
Exactly.
And then he would always talk about how he wished that Steph would use his dribble drive more. He always felt Steph didn't dribble drive enough. Too many times, Steph would just settle for that long-range shot. And defensively, he said that helped him a lot. He was like, you know what? Sometimes I have to pick him up 30 feet, but sometimes I'm like, I'm going to let him shoot that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he knew, he could tell early in the game, Steph he not in the dribble drive mode tonight. He don't want no contact tonight, so I'm gonna let him shoot.
Right. And if he makes them, then God bless him. Right. So it's literally that's exactly how we see it. Right. And I just don't think it would have been in Ray's prime. You can't guard Ray like that.
No.
Right.
No.
You can't guard Ray like that.
Please go see Seattle and Milwaukee, Ray.
Thank you.
Matter of fact, the Bucks Sixers series that year, the AI year.
Yeah. Yep. 2001.
The work Ray was putting in on Hey, Aaron McKee was like, dude, I'm even holding his shorts and he getting a shot.
Right, exactly, because there's nothing you can do. It was nothing you could do, right? And it's just so with that being said, I would take Ray because again, sometimes down the stretch, you may not be able to when the other team has scouted you so well,
right? You
just got to have a cat that can make a play, right? Yeah. You just got to make a play. Yeah. All right. They know what we're going to do. We know what they're going to do. You just got to have a dude that can get you one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so Ray, if between those two, Ray would be my guy. And I love Steph. Love Steph.
Yeah.
Because of that, I love him. Love Steph.
Yeah, and we're gonna give him his kudos because he actually has changed the game because now guys his size are like, listen, it's a spot for me. When, like, say 10, 15 years ago, Steph would have just been like a guy.
And now with the way the game is, yeah, it's a lane for me. And because he can shoot the ball so well, and again, that's what we're talking about, because at that point guard spot, he can shoot the ball so well. Going back to one of the terms I like to use all the time, can you play with people that are better than you and still be effective? Right?
Bro, I use that every day. I meant to tell you, I use that every day.
Right?
I go out and talk to these kids. Hey, man, that's one of my recruiting tools I use now. So I appreciate those.
No, you all good. All good.
Yeah,
you got to be able to play with guys that are better than you. And he can do that because he can shoot the rock and he can find his spots and things. So he can play with the Kobe. I mean, dude was playing with KD and Clay. Yeah. Like, I mean, you know, dudes that will light you up, and he was still effective, right? And I think, you know, going back to Kobe, I think, Mace, that's one of the things that goes underrated with Kobe in terms of how efficient he was, because he was fundamentally sound. Because people oftentimes associate volume with Kobe in terms of shooting. Right. But because Kobe could score from all the different spots on the floor, Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum could get theirs. Yeah. They didn't have to get out of the paint and get out of the way so Kobe could do his thing. Right. Does that make sense, Mace?
Yeah, boy, it makes perfect sense.
Sense. So I don't think Kobe gets the credit for, you know, Shaq. Like, Shaq was leading the league in scoring with Kobe Bryant. Yeah. Because Shaq didn't have to get out of the way so Kobe could rock. Right. You know, so I think, and the only way you can do that is you got to be efficient in all spots of the floor. You got to be a 3-level scorer and do that effectively. I like right.
Give them the 3 levels real quick, since you know what I'm saying. Give them the 3 levels on the floor where you need to be able to score that rock.
So contrary to what people are teaching, right? Threes and layups, that makes you a 2-level scorer. That means you can only shoot from 3 and you can only score close to the rim. But there's a whole other area in there, right, that people are starting to neglect, but the great players can score in there. Yeah. Mace, why are people saying Kawhi is in this discussion for being the best player in the world?
Bro, his mid-range is stupid. It's stupid.
Oh, man.
2 dribbles and he up.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Right? Like, it's incredible. You know, and then the same thing when you say the other guy who's in the conversation for the best player in the world, KD. Right? Like, it's
right. Spin.
It ain't even fair. Yes. It's not fair, Mace, that a dude, like, look, I'm gonna tell you, as a point guard, I'm tight about this. It's not fair that a dude that's 7 feet tall and can do the stuff I can do, Mace, and do it better than me. I'm tight about that.
Man, what a weapon. This is what I want to ask you. How crazy was it that somebody had the foresight to see his length and not just try to make him a post player?
Man, it's whoever did that was incredible, man. You know, and you know, you know, the good thing about it is sometimes, you know, Paul Pierce was like this, and where, like, you have guard skills, you're playing on the perimeter, and then you just grow. Yeah. Anthony Davis was like this. Yeah. Right. And then, so what people did with them was, okay, let's make sure that we leverage the fact that you can still handle the ball and move like a guard. You're used to moving like a guard. And now, you know, you've been able to do this, and now you're 7 feet tall and you can do it. Yeah. And I think it's incredible when people do that. And one of the things that I want to make sure that I speak about when you talk about a guy like KD that can do that, Mace, you know, people forget when he was at Texas, he led the nation in rebounding, right? So with that being said, you and then when he got to Golden State, because he could score so efficiently because they had all those other weapons on, he became a rim protector, right? That's the other thing that he did, right? So when you talk about what they lost when he left, that's the thing that people don't focus on. They
Right.
lost a guy that can meet you at the rim.
Right.
It's like, you coming in here, meet me at the beach. Let's get it done. Let's get right.
And it's funny you say that because Siakam, before he came back, before he tried to make that comeback, I mean, Siakam he owned the boards. Just owned them. Because it was no KD in that, and Clay wasn't getting down in there. That's not what Clay do for that team.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, that was major with KD. Left without KD.
So when he left, the scoring, you lost that 7-foot monster, but you lost that rim protection. You also lost a dude that could boogie and score at the rim. Mm-hmm. They lost that too. Mm-hmm. So they lost their guy that could get stuff done offensively and defensively at the rim. So when I'm referencing that, Mace, because like I said, like we were talking about last week, just because you have those perimeter skills, hey man, don't neglect this rebounding.
Right.
Don't neglect this, when somebody coming at this rim, you got that. Right. Yeah. You can't. And so the great players, that's what they do. So again, I say this before, Hoop Fam, when somebody calls and says, I got to stretch 4, is he allergic to the paint? Or can he, right? Is he allergic to the paint, fam? Or can he do everything? Right? That's the question.
Hey man, this next question is, you got to put your GM hat on now. This for the GM and you.
Okay.
With the NBA draft lottery being August 25th and the draft is going to be October 15th, how do teams prepare for these events? The teams that are not going to be in the bubble, how do these teams start getting themselves ready from a scout personnel perspective for the draft that's coming up?
Well, those teams have already been doing that throughout the year, right? They've been getting ready because a lot of teams are in the mode of, we are building through the draft. So we're playing our young guys. So we're going to take our lumps. So they've already been working on that all throughout the year in terms of trying to ascertain who we're going to draft if we get this spot, if we get that spot, So people ask me, I was talking with a young guy last week, and he asked me, who is it that I've scouted that I can say I've scouted? And I told him, when you're in the scout game, you scout everybody.
Right.
So with that being said, you're planning for all the scenarios. You're planning for if we get the first pick in the draft. You're planning for if we pick 10th, right, in the lottery. You're planning for if we pick 4th and this is our guy and maybe he's gone in the top 3. Do we trade down because the guy we like 2nd is actually rated? Most teams have him as like 10th in the draft. Right. So you're going through all of those different scenarios. If there's a player on our team that we may have to move to another team to improve our draft selection, our draft position in this draft, if there's a certain player that we target that we feel like will be great for our program. So all of that stuff is going on. The intel work will start, calling all of the grade school, high school, college, AAU teams, all of those things. You're having all of those conversations now and really getting all of that information. The teams have already started doing that. And you're really doing that, and then you'll start getting into your workouts where you bring your players in. And some of those workouts are, team workouts where the press comes. And some of them are secret workouts, right? So you're having all of those things, and there's a lot of gamesmanship too, right? People may say, I don't like this player because they hope that player falls to them, right? There's a lot of things that go on, a lot of cloak and dagger missions that go on right now, and it's it's very labor intensive, but if you love the game, it's a lot of fun.
So let's ask you this. Let's say, for instance, let's just say the Golden State Warriors are gifted in the lottery #1 overall pick. Wiseman, Ball, Edwards are the consensus top 3 guys in this year's draft. Which guy fits what Golden State does well? Who are you taking?
And for me, and I want to say this, and I want to say this clearly. No hot takes, right?
We don't do that.
But I can tell you this: if all three of those guys played up to the apex of their respective powers, James Wiseman is the number one prospect in this draft. He's the number one prospect in this draft because what he can do at his size, right? And the fact, again, we talk about upside. There is a huge, huge, huge upside with James Wiseman, right? And that's if they all play to the best of their respective potential.
Right.
So looking at their team,
right,
I would take James Wiseman.
That's what it comes down to.
Looking at their team,
I
would take James Wiseman.
And because of the fit, because you're gonna have a healthy Clay back. Gonna have now Draymond is gonna be able to do what Draymond does. You have Steph, and like you say, they're gonna they don't really need them. Like Edwards don't fit what they do.
Right.
You know? And right. I don't know how LaMelo, because it's like, what would LaMelo be? Right. In Golden State's offense. So I mean,
right. Right. Now, I think they would find a way to make sure that, because what he can do with his size off the dribble and operating, he could help them, because they'll have a like KD. Not saying he's KD, but just a guy with size that can create. But for their team, I think that James Wiseman would be because the other thing about James Wiseman as well with their team, that would be a good fit for him, because he will continue to learn how to be a professional around those guys. All three of those guys would learn that. Right. But I think James, and that's the other reason why Andrew Wiggins is so important to Golden State, because with those dudes, whatever it is that he can do, they may be able to get it out of him because he's around some real professionals. Right. And not that in Minnesota, this is the thing that we were having in Phoenix is, you got to have veterans, but you got to have veterans that can rock, right? That's the way that you really get the attention of young players, veterans that can get it done. Right. Because if you don't get it done, okay, watch this, young fella, I'm gonna go get it done. Right. And so that's the thing about any young player that's playing in Golden State now. Steph and Clay and Draymond can, as a collective, can still get it done. So that warrants your attention, right? This isn't a guy that's at the end of his career, maybe we put him in and give him a few minutes here and there. These are guys that can still get it done. Right. Yep. That's good. That's good right there. And it's funny you talk about that veteran presence, because now with the Hawks season being over, it's the end of Vince Carter's career. One thing that I know from covering the Hawks, Vince Carter molded Trae Young. He molded my other big. John Collins. Right. Yep. And he was taking, even though he gave the Duke rookie, he gave him hell every day. That's what he needed. That Duke Carolina thing. But what he did for the young core of the Atlanta Hawks, man, was unbelievable. Let's give Vince Carter his roses, man. Just remind everybody the greatness of Vince Young. I mean, I said Vince Young, Vince Carter. Him too, right? Yeah. Mace, ask Mac Brown. Listen, Vince Young don't have to ask for another meal in Austin. There you go. And he shouldn't have to ask for one in Chapel Hill either. Ask Mac Brown. But Vince Carter. Right. So Vince is when you look at the longevity that he's established and the fact that he was a problem, right? And one of the things that people should really remember, and one of the things I like about Vince, is most athletic guys, and you can make an argument that we may not have seen a guy like Vince, the things that maybe David Thompson, I'm going back. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We just, wow. And oftentimes when we see guys that are that athletic, the game comes very easy to them, and they don't get better.
Right.
Right? They don't refine their skills. They don't. One of the reasons why Vince was able to hang on is because Vince got better.
He did.
He became a better shooter.
Oh, my God.
He became a better shooter. So he was able to have a niche because in the league, you can never have enough shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to find his niche as his athleticism. I mean, he's still, for a guy in his 40s, still athletic. That's not the dude that was first coming out of Carolina.
Dude,
you know,
he was still putting on dunk shows at pregame. He would do it in the game.
Exactly. So he became a better player. And we often don't see that with guys that are athletic because the game comes so easy to them that they don't have to become better players. Right. And but you know, when you look at him, man, one of the things that I know everybody talks about, shout out Alonzo Mourning. Everybody talks about the Alonzo Mourning play when he went behind his back and he caught Alonzo, right? Yeah. And part of the reason why he caught Alonzo is because Georgetown centers contest everything. So shout out Alonzo Mourning. Shout out Mutombo. Shout out Patrick Ewing, right? They contest everything, right? But I can tell you, man, I don't know if you remember this one. They were playing Indiana. When he caught Chris Mullin baseline, Mace, when he caught Chris Mullin baseline and finished with that
thing when he did.
So, Hoop fam, if you haven't seen Vince Carter when the great Chris Mullin was guarding, when Chris Mullin was playing in Indiana, on those great teams in Indiana, by the way, look at Vince Carter going baseline. Dude. Chris Mullin talked about it and said, I have no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because just sitting down. So we would always just sit down and just talk with Vince before the game because he was always the first person on the floor. And he just was like, one day he was like, you know, just messing around with he just like with YouTube and some stuff. He was just like, dude, I don't even remember doing that. Like, man, dude, like sometimes I'm amazed by like, no, I did that. Like, dude, yeah, you did.
Yeah, man. You know, I remember back to Vince too. I remember his freshman year when they were playing. It's funny. There's some iconic North Carolina alley-oops that are emblazoned in my mind. One was when Rasheed Wallace caught one and was running down the floor saying, "Oh my God," because he caught one that it was a terrible pass.
Yeah.
Right. And he caught it, and he was running down the floor. Shout out Rasheed Wallace again. Who fam? You don't know how good that cat should have been. Oh man. Right. So
bucket machine.
Oh my goodness. Right. And then the one with Vince was, I think they were playing Clemson, and it was on a baseline out of bounds. You remember that?
And they threw it up.
They threw it up, right?
Just lobbed it to the rim.
Yeah. Man. So you know, Vince is again, for a guy that could do that, and then also again, this is going back into Melo with this, right? So being able to ascertain that, okay, and accept, okay, maybe I'm not the athlete that I used to be. Right. But I want to continue to play this game. So let me try and find my way. And real recognize real. So these guys know. And they look at that and they're like, you know what, man, if dude really wanted to be more demonstrative in his actions, he could probably make a case to have a bigger role. Right. But dudes, you know, I'm good. He didn't chase a championship.
Yeah.
Right.
Could have easily done that.
Didn't chase the title. Right. So you got to respect the G. Respect the G of Vince Carter.
Yeah. We're gonna close with this one because my cousin from Philly, he texted me 5 times. I asked my question. What moves do Joel Embiid needs to? What does Joel Embiid need to do to take his game to the next level?
Man,
because the guy, I mean, he has everything.
He has everything, and you know, from a conditioning standpoint, you know, we would like to see him improve that. But here's one of the things that I want to mention about Joel Embiid that people need to take into account. So sometimes people get mad at Joel Embiid because he shoots threes, right? So they look at him and they're like, man,
it's too many threes. It's in his bag.
Right? It's in his bag, number
It's in
one.
his bag.
And then number two, when you look at them from a team perspective, right? When you look at them from a team perspective and you look at their personnel, they need him to stretch the floor.
They do. They do.
Right? Now,
Yeah.
of course, would you like to see that in moderation? Of course. But they need him to stretch the floor because right now, if he doesn't space the floor and stretch defenses, how can Ben Simmons score?
Right.
So you can't have Joel Embiid just in the
clogging up the lane,
being this basically having all of this gravitational pull and pulling other teams' defensive players in the paint because they got to account for him. Right. Now you negate the effectiveness of Ben Simmons. So what happens is when you do that, it's hard for Ben to score in the half court unless he's getting offensive rebounds. Right? He's got to have driving lanes.
Yep.
So now in the open court, Ben can get that thing off the rim and let's boogie.
And he out.
Right? But right now, Joel Embiid has to, especially since there's no JJ Redick, he's got to space the floor. Right? So he has to shoot some of those threes. He's got to. Yeah. And until we start seeing some of that improvement with Ben Simmons, and I'm going to tell you, in that draft, I was saying that if we won the lottery, we need to take Ben Simmons. So we need to take Ben Simmons, right? So like, I like Bi. Yeah. Bi's boogieing. I like Bi.
Yeah.
I was personally saying we need to take Ben Simmons.
Right.
Right. Right. And so don't let me sound as if I'm disparaging Ben Simmons.
Right.
I'm just saying for Joel Embiid,
for Philadelphia,
for that team, he's got to shoot some of those.
Right.
Right. But he's got everything. He's got everything. And the biggest thing I would like to see is for him to figure out what approach was the best approach for Joel Embiid to be effective. Don't try to turn down if that's not the best thing for you.
Right.
Right? In terms of being an antagonizer, an irritant. If that's who you are, that's what we need. Right? But if being quote unquote calm and not being an irritant is the best approach for you, then do that. Right? I can tell you this as a Nike basketball guy. LeBron's first year in Miami, we tried to package him as the villain. Didn't work for LeBron.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for him.
Yeah.
That's not how he is.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that he's bad. That's not making a judgment against his personality. That's just not his disposition.
Right.
So it doesn't work for him. If we're doing that with Kobe, I don't care what you think about me.
Bro.
Right? Like, right? You know, what you say does not motivate me. Right? I used to say this about Kobe all the time when I was at ESPN. If I wrote an article criticizing Kobe's shooting, just using it as an example, and said Kobe needs to become a better shooter, he wouldn't even care. Like, it wouldn't make him work harder.
Right, because that's what he do anyway.
That's what, it doesn't rent space in his head. It doesn't even resonate with him. Like, whatever, right? So, like, again, you just got to figure out if you want to be part of that 470 and then you want to be the best that you can be in that, you got to figure out what is, again, I always say, you got to walk that line. Is accountability part of it? Absolutely. But you also got to be you. Right? You got to be you. Because you're in the locker room with dudes that are trying to eat your food.
Right.
They trying to take your plate. So, like, if they see weakness, it's over for you. It's over for you.
I get smarter and smarter every week.
Nah, brother.
Man.
I appreciate
it's unbelievable. You. I'm already getting texts or questions for next week, man. Listen, the people, y'all make the show. I don't do nothing. I just organize it and I shoot it to my point guard, everybody. Dude, next week, same time. Listen, I don't know what the show gonna be, my dude. But I know you're gonna be ready.
I'll be ready, brother. I'll be ready. I appreciate you.
Look, I saw the little thing. I fished out your number. I'm finna send you some information. So now I got your sale. You had already been sent it to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Hey,
Let
man,
me know what's going on with those Grinches. I appreciate you, brother.
I'm about to send you that info.
Yep. Thanks for sharing the platform with me. Hey, keep going, man. 30 days. Appreciate you, brother.
I'm on it now.
Yes, sir.
Yep.